do you think YouTube's going to rebrand to? Like when Elon buys it? Why or something?
I haven't thought about that. Good question, though.
I don't know, Jordan, are you counting down? And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Wednesday, March 13th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman, and we are brought to you by BetMGM. 7 games to talk about. Feels a lot like yesterday. Although, this slate, and I like to be nice more often than not, this slate is disgustingly terrible. We got to deal with Memphis again. I have no idea who's actually available for those idiots. We had absolutely no value earlier today. It's not really much better at this point. Luka's all the way up to 12-8. I want to play him. Hard to do it on a day like today. Kind of makes it better, considering that dude is a guaranteed 1.9 DK points per minute right now. But anyway, we're going to break it all down for you. Good luck figuring out what you like. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. What's going on, man? How are you?
Memphis, man. They're just making things so difficult from a DFS perspective. Like talking about them, playing the slates, everything about Memphis is just a shit show.
The weirdest one for me today, so I get that like machine gun of news of Memphis, considering their entire team has a distinction. I was like, Desmond Bane is doubtful?
So that means he's probably going to play in their next game.
Seems it. I'm gonna go ahead.
That's how Memphis generally does their injury reporting. So go ahead.
Yeah, if I figured either, this one, maybe Friday or Saturday, seems like he's on his way back. I forgot. I didn't even think he would ever come back.
Why is he coming back?
I mean, if it was an ankle sprain.
Yeah, so listen, as I was saying that, if he's healthy, why wouldn't he play? I mean,
yeah. It depends what it is there. If it was like, oh, he had like a partially torn MCL, then It's like, oh, yeah, sit down. If this is an ankle sprain, like when you're good, you're probably good. And you can make sure that you're good to come back here. Like there's no need to rush this one. You feel the slightest twinge of anything, they're going to shut him down for another week just by default. But that one caught me off guard. I wasn't ready for doubtful Desmond Bane.
Yeah, me neither. That means he'll probably reemerge in the next couple slates at least. So it's something to think about. I didn't even notice that, so thank you.
It'll be fascinating to see what he's priced at for the slate that he actually comes back. He's got to exist right now, right?
I'm sure he's 3K.
He's flat 3K today.
I really don't get why they do that.
If they don't, no, there's no reason. He should just be his price at all times. You should never drop him at all. Like, could you imagine if that popped up and he was questionable and Desmond Bane today against the Charlotte Hornets was the flat 3K? He'd be the first guy ever to be more than 100% owned. Like, we see what we get for Triple J. I mean, he's like a 9K player with none of these guys around.
If they said he was playing 15 minutes at 3K versus Charlotte, would you play him?
He'd probably be the best value play on today's slate right now.
I agree.
Like, I mean, we've got 31% ownership coming into $3,300 Marcus Sasser.
Yeah, and it's not like any of those guys are. Yeah, and it's not like any of those cheap guys are going to play big minutes. So for sure.
And Marcus Sasser is certainly not the per minute guy that Desmond Bane's going to be in a situation where he's going to have like a 38% usage rate. Could you imagine?
Be interesting to see if they change that for the next slate, because clearly it looks like he's at least coming back soon. Who knows? But it looks
that'll be something. When do they play? I assume they play either Friday or Saturday. They definitely don't play tomorrow. That much we know. Okay, so they don't play again until Saturday, and they play the Thunder. I mean, if he's doubtful today, he is at the very least going to be questionable on Saturday. It'll be very interesting to see what that price ends up being.
Yeah, maybe that's what they do, actually, now that you said that. Doubtful, then questionable, then he plays. So that actually makes more logical sense. So he probably plays in 2 games.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if he played Saturday, but I just don't think he's going to go for I think he'll be listed regardless on Saturday.
Yeah, he definitely will be listed. Yeah, for sure.
Either way, you ready to get into this one? It's a gem.
It certainly is. It is a slate.
Well, let's start it off. And we started off immediately with information we don't have. The Toronto Raptors are 3.5-point underdogs in Detroit, 232 total. And right now, we await the news on Emmanuel Quickley and Gary Trent, who are both questionable. Still no Scotty Barnes. Still no Chris Boucher, who's out for the rest of the year. Jakob Poeltl is out. And then RJ Barrett out for personal reasons, which I haven't seen. So I hope it's like the birth of a child or something. But knowing the status of Emmanuel Quickley and Gary Trent is going to go a long way. Luckily, this is a 7 o'clock game. We will know this information. But Quickley pulling 30% ownership on DK. Gary Trent's at 25%. Bruce Brown also at 30%. It's even more extreme on FanDuel. Bruce Brown is 50. Emmanuel Quickley is 50. Gary Trent is 40. Kelly Olynyk is 35. Even Akbaji and Grady Dick are both north of 10. So as you look at it right now, I guess assuming everybody is in, how do you feel about Toronto against the Pistons?
Such a good spot for the Raptors. Hard not to like them. And they're missing guys, as you alluded to. So presuming Quickley's in, he looks like one of the top 5 best plays on the slate. Undoubtedly, in my mind. So he looks really, really good. The ownership's there, but not worried about it. We've talked about that a ton. The rest of Toronto looks really good here. It's just such a good spot against Detroit. They are shorthanded. 7K Olynyk doesn't feel right, but certainly in play. I mean, projects well, not getting a ton of ownership. So he's an easy way to balance out the Quickley ownership. I think getting to a bunch of Toronto makes sense. Right now, Quickley's the only lock for me. And not even lock, but it's really, really, really strong play. And then we'll see what happens with guys being out. It's really hard to talk about Toronto. Luckily, we'll have the news, but as far as talking about them goes, it's really difficult.
It is. And clearly Quickley looks fantastic in this spot if he is back and unencumbered. And similarly, I do think Trent looks good given, shooting guard is generally tough to fill. He's going to play big minutes. He's going to have free reign to get whatever shots up he wants. But what if they're out again? This becomes what? $4,800 shooting guard, small forward Grady Dick goes from 18% owned to way more than that. Does it become the Javon Freeman Liberty game today? We got to remember, RJ Barrett is also out now. That's a whole other guy if those two happen to be out again. Barrett played last time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Freeman Liberty is he's not even good. So
yes.
I think that the intrigue of going back there is intriguing. I know that's redundant, but
I like where you're going.
Yeah, going back to a guy like that certainly intriguing because now we do have Barrett out. If those guys are out too, it's going to open up a ton, and Toronto's in a great spot. So yeah, I think Freeman Liberty will look better than he did against Denver the other night, even if he's not starting like he didn't start against Denver. Yeah, I mean, Bruce Brown would automatically then become one of the best plays on the slate. He already looks good just with him being point guard and small forward eligible. So all the guys that look good now will look great if Quickley, et cetera, is out. And then guys that are just fringe plays right now, you mentioned Grady Dick, Freeman Liberty, those guys become in play. Correct. Dick becoming obviously a stronger play than Freeman Liberty.
That's a funny way to say it. Per Steven Leibowitz in chat, Freeman Liberty is listed as a power forward on Yahoo. That is pretty interesting eligibility, considering this man is 6'4" and 180 pounds on Basketball Reference. Classic power forward build.
Hey, it is positionless basketball nowadays.
It is. It is. So, guys, you got to keep your eyes peeled here. Live Before Lock is going to will likely have the news of what we get out of those two guys, and then the trickle-down effect of who gets unlocked depending on who's in or out. Because if Trent is out, that probably is enough to just make Grady Dick be a much more interesting option. At some point in time, we would probably have to talk about Jordan Nwora. Even Akbaji, if he can get north of 30 minutes, which he absolutely needs given how bad he is on a per-minute basis. There are so many different guys you could play for Toronto, and we just really can't dive into too much of it right now.
Yeah, and I'm with you about Dick. Like if Quickly's in, but Trent is out, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't become a strong play.
I'm a child. I don't think I'll ever stop laughing at that dude's name. I hope he doesn't have a good career. Like, it's not going to help me at all if he is constantly a guy that we can get to.
What's the
Everything.
ceiling of his career?
I have
Grayson
no
Allen?
idea. I have no idea. I don't know enough about him.
Okay.
Like, I have no prior from college. Like, I don't really know how well he plays. And he hasn't really been playing a ton. I don't catch a lot of Toronto games this season.
Fair.
So I don't have an educated guess there. I mean, I have to assume higher than that. Like, it's, I don't know. I do appreciate you using another white guy though as your comp.
I thought about that right after. It's just so natural, right? It's just
Does he have a nickname that like it's normal? Basketball Reference. No nicknames listed yet. Ah, it's a shame.
I'm sure he was like made fun of, obviously, like especially when he was little. But if you're a top 10 NBA draft pick and good enough to get like a full ride to Kansas, I mean, I doubt that. I'm sure you lived a pretty good life in high school and middle school, etc. So
And yeah, like I mean, he's obviously, I would imagine, has been pretty nice since he's like 10 years old, basically.
had to
So
have been, right?
I mean, he probably just destroyed, like he's probably just
Yeah.
raining threes and free throws since he was 7 years old.
Yep.
Really good at layups. Anybody in chat dropping in his actual nickname? Yeah, no sign of a nickname here. All right. Anyway, Detroit, it's worse over here. We ended up getting the news that Asar Thompson is going to be out. That leads us to this. 40% ownership to Simone Fontecchio. About 40 to Jalen Duren. About 30 to Isaiah Stewart. 30 to Marcus Sasser, which, yeah. Another 20 to Cade. Another 25 to Jaden Ivey. A little over 10 to Quentin Grimes. There is an overwhelming amount of ownership coming into the Detroit Pistons. As of right now, they are, by a lot, the highest owned team. The only other team that's close is Toronto. There are 204% aggregate ownership to Detroit. That's 25% of the entire slate. If we ignore Toronto for right now, for those three guys, the next closest team is Indy at 85%. It's just nuts. What do you like from Detroit? Because clearly it's got to be something.
Yeah. So I like a lot of Detroit here. As far as love, man, I love Jalen Duren here. He's just way too cheap, 6,700. This is a really good matchup for both sides now. It's great for Toronto. It's also great for Detroit. So
Yeah.
Duren is like on the quickly level. I actually like Duren slightly more. I think they're both very comparable as far as how strong they are on this slate. I like Cade, priced up a little bit, but nice. He's only point guard eligible. Excuse me. I was looking at Ivy for a second, but a bunch of guys on this slate have been priced up a little bit. So I think you could do worse than spending up on Cade. Ownership is fine as far as his optimal percentage goes. So I like Cade. Ivy looks like a fine play. I'm just going kind of in the order of their pricing. Fontecchio looks like the next best play in terms of value, but also the most overowned. He's one of, if not the most overowned player on the slate as far as leverage goes, which is fine. I mean, he's not usually the type of player I'm like running after rostering in that spot, but he's playing well. This is a great spot. There isn't a ton of value on the slate, as you've talked about. Small forward eligible, which is a weak position here. I think you could fill in with a lot of Detroit. And then you mentioned Marcus Sasser. I think it just speaks to the lack of value on this slate. He only projects for 18 fantasy points, optimal 19% of the time this slate plays out. Now he's also getting way too much love. So I don't want to play all these overowned Detroit guys and quickly and whatever chalk is on this slate, but I'm fine with every piece in itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. Like, I'm basically right at the field for most of these dudes. Just a hair over the field on Cade, He's showing up 16% optimal. I'm a bit over on beef stew. I'm always over on beef stew. There doesn't seem like anything I could do about that dude. 5K, power forward center. I think I bet on him too today. I'm just under on Ivy. The guy that I have the most of is Jalen Duren at 6,700. You've got Kelly Olynyk on the opposite side and not much else resistance for Duren. So I really do like this spot. And 6,700, I mean, this is a guy that's at 1.17 DraftKings points per minute over the last 30 days. No slouch. We're talking 15. I got him projected for 15 and 13. Should be fun to see. I'm dead neutral to Sasser. I have 30%. It's so gross because it's a play you don't want. Like, he is unquestionably just a backup guard, but in 1/3 of lineups, just feels like there's got to be a different version of Sasser somewhere, but it's not stopping me from getting to him. And then Fontecchio, I'm right at the field again. I have 45%. He's projected for 41. It's just really good value. It's a perfect spot. Toronto doesn't play slow. They're middle of the pack, but they do have a just dreadful defense, which has to be worse than it was. Like, they're 24th for the season. That's a season that includes games with Scotty Barnes, includes games with Pascal Siakam, includes games with OG Anunoby, Jakob Poeltl. None of those dudes are on the floor today. This is just way worse for Toronto, but great for the Pistons. It's a lot of ownership, but I totally agree with it.
Yeah, crazy to see Kelly O more expensive than Duren.
Yeah, that's nuts, right?
It's something. I mean, because I feel like Duren
over the past 30 days, Duren has been a better permanent fantasy performer.
And not just that, like, I just feel like Duren is in the progression in his career where he's going to be like a 7 to 8K player probably for a while, if not higher, depending on what he evolves into. Where Kelly O is more likely than not to be like in a role similar to what he's been recently next year, where he's like a 4K player.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be the backup center to Jakob Poeltl next year.
Yes.
Oh, man. So, moral of this story, folks, pay attention to Toronto news, which will come out sometime in the next 90 minutes, and play everything you can get your hands on for Detroit, basically. The only guy James Wiseman, honestly, James Wiseman pulling basically no ownership is at least a little interesting for today's slate, because he is legitimately the backup center. Like, he played 17 and a half minutes the night before. Did Duren get in foul trouble on the 9th? Because Wiseman played 30 minutes that day, along with 30 minutes for the rest of the starters. He's going to play 15 or 16 minutes. Like, is he other than just being center only? He's not all that different than Marcus Sasser, and he's a better per minute guy than Marcus Sasser. And at least, like, for sure, if something happens to Duren, they can give Wiseman a couple extra minutes. 3% ownership, not the craziest play in the world for a 90,000 person entry contest on DraftKings.
No, and he's also a great way, like, you're playing a lot of popular players. Well, all you need is one guy like that to really differentiate yourself. And I'm with that. Like, the optimal percentage is much lower than Sasser's because he's only center eligible and $100 more. But he only projects for like a half a point less. Yeah. And
like, position, obviously, point guard, shooting guard versus center, like, that's making up all of this.
Sure, definitely. But like, there are certainly ways around that on any given slate, Yeah.
Like, I like the ratio of optimal 18 to 3 makes way more sense to me than 31 to 3 for ownership.
I agree.
You heard it here first, everybody. It's James Wiseman Day. Oh, God. We go to Brooklyn. At least this one's pretty easy to talk about. Nets are 7-point dogs in Orlando, 204.5 total. Brooklyn does have Cam Johnson back. They also have Cam Thomas back. And by getting both of those guys back, it means that this team stinks from a DFS perspective. Our boy Mikal Bridges down to 6,900, shooting guard, small forward eligible. He is the highest owned guy and highest optimal guy on the Nets today. 9% optimal, 7% owned. Everybody else is 3% owned or below. This is a horrific spot. This team is terrible. Their implied total is below 100. And they have to go up against the number 4 defense and number 28 team in pace. I would obviously have no issue getting a couple shares of Nick Claxton just because he's the best other thing out there. But it's kind of Bridges or bust, and he's just kind of like a guy anyway.
It's definitely just Bridges or bust for me, and he's on the outskirts for sure. The price tag is appealing, 6,900. I wrote him up in my contrarian article today. He's clearly got upside at that price. He just hung like a 45 spot on Cleveland in a similarly bad spot. So it's in his bag of tricks to have a good game here, but he's not a building block by any means on this slate. It's a really tough matchup. They've got guys back. Overall, he's been more than disappointing. So, he's too cheap for his upside on any given game, but he's probably appropriately priced right now for his median projection. And he's in a really bad spot. So I don't know. Just nothing stands out to me here. I think that you could do worse at 6,900 for him, but I think you could also do better in just building better lineups.
Yeah. I got to 10% of him. That seems exactly like what you should get out of him based on the price and position and what this slate is, but it's so uneventful. I couldn't care less that I have him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's not a bad play at all, especially shooting guard and small forward eligible. And he is at, price at a point now where he can kind of just, glue things together, for lack of a better term.
And then we go to Orlando, where the highest owned guy on the Orlando Magic is Jonathan Isaac, 10% owned and 9.7% optimal. Next highest owned guy, if you're playing on DraftKings, is 4% to Banchero. He's 12 on FanDuel. I actually got to 14% of Cole Anthony, $4,700, to put him in the Marcus Sasser bucket for no ownership whatsoever. Obviously a much bigger price. Do you want anything from Orlando? Because this is not exactly a dream spot for them either.
Nah, I don't like this game at all. Isaac is fine for a value play. Cole Anthony's good for a leverage play. But no, nothing stands out to me at all. I mean, Banchero is really expensive now, not a good spot. I just don't see it. This game is not appealing. Wendell Carter intrigues me a little bit because I think he's fairly priced and he's coming in with nice leverage. But man, let's talk about spending a center spot on him on this slate. It just doesn't seem optimal to me.
No. Like I said, I got to a bit of Cole Anthony as sort of like a low-owned pivot, couple shares of John Isaac, but this is a game that does not have a lot of ownership for me. Let's see, I'm assuming this is the lowest owned game on the slate, and just eyeballing ownership right now, that would be correct. So this is the worst thing that you can get to today, folks. Enjoy it. Find the thing that you like the most. If you have one thing in this game, go ahead. You probably don't want a ton of it.
No.
Oh, God, it's so bad. Anyway, schedule for the rest of the day. That's very easy. First, you got to hit the like button, and then you'll know that NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. You get Greg and Eric breaking it all down, taking you all the way up until 7 o'clock. And then you get playback for tonight, where you guys can watch games along with us. Go to playback.tv/stochastic. It's going to be a good time. If you have League Pass, you could link it up, and we all watch the exact same stream together. We're going to talk bets. We're going to talk DFS news. We're just going to talk shop, random stuff, whatever you're interested in. Drop it into chat. If you don't have League Pass, you might be able to procure one of our 40 VIP passes that will allow you to watch along with us. Might do a giveaway for Odd Shopper as well. I'm not going to be there tonight, unfortunately, folks, but I'll be back again tomorrow and Friday for all of your playback needs. But you will get Greg and probably more than one person popping in to hang out with you guys. So don't miss it. Link in chat right now. The Chicago Bulls are 4-point dogs in Indy, 229 total. No real news on the Chicago side that we're worried about. There's a Q tag on Julian Phillips. If that's going to matter to your day, you're digging way deeper in. I get you're probably playing Bulls Showdown, I guess, at best. On the Pacers side, Quentin Rampage Jackson is questionable. James Johnson is questionable, but nobody that matters is questionable. Benedict Mathurin is out. Doug McDermott is out. On the Bulls side, relatively limited ownership here for what is a really nice spot. Around 10 to 15 on Ayo Dosunmu, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic, and a little bit less than that on Kobe White and Caruso. This is a spot where I think these Chicago guys, their prices are in a little bit of a different range, but I think the Chicago guys look pretty good as a swap to one of the Pistons dudes.
Yeah, or playing them with those guys. I'm with
Yeah.
that. The Bulls are just in a really good spot here against Indiana. Their prices are a little bit different than the Pistons and a little bit different, meaning they're a little bit more expensive, but they're in a great spot here. So it's they're not the best plays on the slate,
Yeah.
but I think they're in that next tier. All their guys, DeRozan, Vooch, Kobe White, those three guys look really, really good here. Vooch looks the best, but center only, center, the more we talk about this slate, the more center looks really, really good. So I like Vooch. Just not sure he's an ultimate like priority for me. I think the easiest to get to in my mind would be DeRozan.
Yeah.
Ownership is right in line with his optimal percentage. This is just a really good spot. So I would hope to have some of Chicago.
Yeah, I look at these guys and it's like, okay, do I want to play Cade or do I want to just grab 6% ownership and use Kobe White? Do I want to play Jaden Ivey or do I want to just grab 12% owned Io DeSumo? Like these guys see like same area, way less ownership. Great matchup though. I mean, we're talking about 25th in defense, number 1 in pace. Like this is a great spot for the Bulls. I got them gaining 4 possessions over their average. I think these guys are pretty good as your GPP pivots. Build your chalky lineup, swap 1 or 2 guys out, use a bull. I think you'll be happy about it. I've got a decent stand on Kobe White. I'm over the field on DeRozan, neutral on DeSumo, neutral on Vooch, neutral on Caruso. I just like these pieces in this spot. There's just going to be so many possessions.
Yeah. And again, not like we're playing these guys because of this, but doesn't hurt that they catch Indy on the second half of a back-to-back traveling home.
No, not at all. This is perfect. This is perfect. But it's starters or bust here. There's nothing else on Indy or on Chicago. For Indy, we got Pascal Siakam pulling about 25% ownership. We've got Miles Turner pulling about 25% ownership. Aaron Nesmith is at 10. Jalen Smith's basically at 10. McConnell's basically at 10. Very similar on FanDuel. Actually, we get Halliburton near 20. Now, we've got negative leverage on Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam right now. Pretty positive leverage on Tyrese Halliburton, which I think is pretty interesting. What do you like here for Indy? Because they might not have the best matchup. Chicago plays slow. The defense isn't as bad as you would think it is just looking at the team. But at the same time, I kind of like some of these guys. The pricing works.
Yeah, the pricing stands out here. These guys have been priced down a little bit. Turner at 6,200, Siakam at 7,200. Think these guys are right in line with the Chicago plays. I actually slightly prefer the Indiana guys just because they're a little bit cheaper. I would be fine if you wanted to quibble with that and say the Chicago guys were better plays just because they're in a much better spot. I think they're similar because of the pricing evens it out. So this game is interesting. Halliburton looks really good from a leverage perspective. Hard to get a good gauge on, I guess, because I don't know how else to put it, like who he is right now. Is he hurt? Like, what is his deal? I think so too. And it doesn't mean he doesn't have monster upside on any given night, but at the beginning of the season at this price point, he would have been the highest owned player on the slate.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this would have been a hell of a spot. I like that positive leverage. I mean, we're showing him 13% optimal, 7% owned. That looks pretty good. But yeah, ever since he came back from that injury, like even on dunks and threes, it's been like a relatively like downward sloping line after he missed that, 10 game stretch or whatever it was. And it's just night and day compared to where he was earlier in the year. I just don't think he has the same sort of burst. I think that what he really needs right now is just to be able to rest, and he's just not in any position to do so.
And I think projections, are having a really hard time with that because he's showing up as one of the best leverage plays on basically every slate he's on.
Yeah. And like they're good right now based like on dunks and threes. They're the most likely team to be the 6th seed. Like they're not even going to make the play in based on those odds. So like they don't want to do anything other than just make the playoffs. So he just kind of has to grin and bear it. But hopefully he stays healthy. That's what I want to see. So I ended up getting to over the field on Turner a little bit. Same on Pascal Siakam. The guy I'm getting to the most here, though, well, not the most. Actually, it is the most. Aaron Nesmith, 5,300, shooting guard, small forward eligible. And we've seen him now finally get back into the starting lineup. And we've seen the minutes ramp back up to where they were prior to him missing those 4 games for injury. 37 2 games ago, 36 last night. I didn't project him for those numbers, but to know that he's got 36 in the bag is very interesting to me. I only went to 32. We went to 32 as well. It's like 9% optimal, 9% owned, but he's a guy I like to get to if he's going to have that sort of minutes upside.
Yeah, I'm with that. He reminds me a lot of Dosunmu from the other side, a little bit cheaper, small forward eligible, so I like him slightly more, but those two guys are similar to me.
Let me see. I just want to see one thing here. How many threes does Chicago give up? Wow. Okay. No team allows more threes to be taken than the Bulls. 42% of all shots are threes. They're dead last in corner or non-corner threes, and they're 29th in corner threes. That is a great script for Aaron Nesmith because that's who you want to get those shots up. No team is going to allow more threes than Aaron Nesmith or than Chicago Bulls. Gary Trent is now doubtful. Quickly is now probable. So fire.
So I don't really. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that changes
rub up
anything
those
for
dingers,
Quickly.
baby. It's Grady Dick season.
Oh yeah, I finally just thought of what I was thinking. I was laughing about something earlier, and then I was thinking about how I told you I had a pipe burst, and then I was thinking about Dick and about all the jokes that you might think of.
He's about to burst tonight, baby, because I assume he's going into the starting lineup and playing north of 30 minutes.
Yeah, he looks good here.
Yeah. So yeah, my shout out for today is Aaron Nesmith. I think the Bulls style fits him really well. I like the upside in minutes. I love the position, and the price works for me too. So that's my sneaky play of the day. You guys can have it. I'll let you guys in on that secret since I'm not playing tonight. Anything else from Indy?
No, just a pretty good game for all intents and purposes, just because a bunch of these games aren't like Magic Nets.
Gary Trent officially ruled out.
That was quick.
Yeah. What were they like? Hey, man, you're doubtful now. Okay, never mind, man. You're out.
That's funny.
The Denver Nuggets. Tough spot here. Well, not for them. They're good everywhere. They're 3.5-point favorites in Miami, 216 total. Denver's got everybody healthy. 12% ownership coming into Michael Porter Jr. Single digits for everybody else. Single digit ownership for everyone on FanDuel. Jokic is 12K, and generally I have no problem getting to Jokic, and certainly I don't, but top 10 defense in Miami. If anybody can hang with Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo is going to be at least one of the few dudes that you're like, okay, well, if it's somebody, it's him. 27th ranked in pace for Miami, and you've got Luka Doncic out there today in a game with a 17-point total higher than what we have in this one, and a matchup against Golden State. I think Luka looks even better than Jokic, even with an $800 price increase. What do you want to get to from Denver, if anything?
Nothing. Denver's priced up from recent games. Bad spot for them. It's just not an appealing spot from a DFS perspective with prices increasing. Certainly not the slate where I want to look at like their tertiary options in Miami. And then guys like Jamal Murray are priced way up, higher than they've been in a while. Jokic is priced up, not in a good spot. Luka looks insurmountably better in my mind, even with the pricing. Also because of center. I mean, I mentioned it a couple games ago. The more we talk about center, the more I realize how good it is. Miles Turner, Jalen Duren, like those are really, really strong plays. And I don't think we have those type of plays at the point guard position or any other position. So the opportunity cost for rostering Jokic here is huge. Now it's Jokic, so he just threw up like 95.
He did.
I'll never be surprised when he has a monster game, but I don't think this is the slate for it. And our tools are right there. Like he's consistently top 3, top 2, top 5 at worst in the boom bust tool. He's like 10th today.
I got to 2% of him. I barely got to anything. 5% of MPJ was the most I was able to get to. It's just not a good spot. And if you look at it from the Miami side, it's kind of the same situation. Denver's essentially a top 10 defense, 22nd in pace. We're like, it's a bad game script across the board. Like Jimmy Butler looks okay. He's 8% owned. Butler is 18% owned on FanDuel, but it's single digit optimal, single digit ownership for everybody on Miami. Do you see the Miami side differently?
Not really, but my favorite play in this game is Jimmy Butler. I love him. I love him in spots like this. We've seen it time and time again in the playoffs. This is obviously a get up spot for Miami, who is a team that needs all the wins they can get. So Butler is my favorite piece, but man, he's also priced up. Like he hasn't been this expensive in a while. So you're paying for it here. He is the type of guy, though, that I really like rostering with those chalky Pistons and Raptors. And then, not playing either Luka or Jokic. Because all of a sudden, if you're playing Quickly and Cade and Duran, it's difficult to get to Luka. So I like a guy like Butler in those type of builds.
So I actually did get to 2x the field on Butler. And I think it's so much of it is just simply the fact that he's small forward eligible. And it's just like not a position that we're talking about basically ever. It seems like a wasteland for rostering someone. So he does seem like he's popping up a little bit here for me. I got a little bit of Caleb Martin, a little bit of Bam, but no major stands here. And like I said, it's just 22nd team in pace against 27th, 2 top 10 Ds. It's really just not that appealing of a game. And at this point in time, like Miami's pricing is pretty stable. Denver's pricing is obviously stable. There's just not a lot of value to squeeze out here.
Yeah, there's not much at all.
Okay, I got to handle this one in chat. For everybody that is trying to look up the Bulls giving up threes, I do not care what teams shoot against other teams. That is not important to me. I care if they are getting those shots up. We don't need to look up 3-point percentage. You need to look at attempt rate. These are two different things. Also, Osiris Orion, if you're looking at it for the last 3 games, unbookmark that, delete it, whatever you want to do. That could not be more useless. You know, it's not useless. BetMGM. They are the sponsor of this show, and they've got a deal that is going away imminently. If you don't get this now, you might wake up shortly and not have the opportunity. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Got to make a $10 deposit at minimum. Click the link in chat or in the description of this video. Got to bet 5. You get 3 $50 bonus bets. Worst case scenario, and I tell you guys this every day, if you lose all 4 of those, the $5 bet and your 3 bonus bets, you're still only out $5 of your own money. Best case scenario, you grab a couple of those bonus bets and you've completely changed the way your starting bankroll looks. That's a great way to do this. You should always want to try and grab this sort of free money. You can take your chances on some underdogs and really try to build that up out of the gate. You got to be 21 or over. If you are someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. I highly suggest you use this deal if you're in a legal sports betting state as fast as you can. Maybe grab a little odds shopper with it if you're looking for additional plays. I think that would be a good idea too. But BetMGM, thank you for sponsoring us. You guys are awesome, especially because you're in the state of North Carolina. All right, Charlotte Hornets, 2.5-point favorites in Memphis, 202 total. This just might be the worst game that we've ever had. 7% ownership to Nick Richards is the highest mark on DraftKings. Around 10 for a couple guys on FanDuel. Miles Bridges did get to 10% optimal. Good enough spot against Memphis, I guess. But what do you want to do from Charlotte here?
I think Miles Bridges looks for sure the best play from Charlotte. He's so expensive though, like 8,800. You'd rather play Butler at 8,600. So I know it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1, but at some point you can't play everyone. I think DeRozan looks just as good and he's cheaper. So Bridges is a good contrarian spend up guy that, especially if you're multi-entering, because he does have upside in that price in this matchup. So he's really the only guy I think I could even consider with how their pricing is and just this whole game environment. Richards, I get it, but he just looks a lot like Wendell Carter to me in that, like, I'm fine with those guys, but using a center spot in one of them doesn't seem like the way I want to approach this slate personally. I'd much rather play a Miles Turner. How about you? Anything from Charlotte tickle yours?
Just a couple shares of Brandon Miller, Bridges, and Richards, like the 3 dudes that if you're going to get to something from Charlotte, you do in 150 lineups, but Nobody more than 10%, so nobody that I would like really advocate anybody get to. It's a pretty bleak scenario here. It's just gross to look at, honestly.
Memphis, especially though.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Trey Mann is questionable. If he's in, it's awful. If he's out, like incrementally bump up Misic and like probably very little else. Honestly, I don't think that that's going to have a major impact of this. So
Same. I think it's Misic, and he's like priced up now. So
yeah. So then we get to Memphis, which is a thing. All right, Trey Jameson is projected for 13% ownership. To me, he's the best thing that you can get to from Memphis right now. However, we kind of need to hash this one out. So Brandon Clark is out. John Morant is out. Derrick Rose is out. Marcus Smart is out. Yuta Watanabe is out. Zaire Williams is out. Those guys are just out. Desmond Bane is doubtful. Jaren Jackson is doubtful. Vince Williams is doubtful. Santi Aldama is questionable. Scottie Pippen Jr. is questionable. Lamar Stevens is questionable. What do you want to do with Memphis? We can't. Like, I think Trey Jameson looks amazing for what today is. 4,300, assuming that we're not getting Jaren Jackson in this spot. Like, he's going to play like 28 minutes, isn't he?
yeah, assuming Jaren Jackson is out, which I have no idea. This
Right.
team is. We talked about Toronto. At least you can kind of like navigate where they might go with certain guys out. Here, it's impossible. They got too many guys on the injury report. Jameson or Jemison, whatever it is, looks really, really good if Jaren Jackson is out. And I'm sure our tools will indicate that as well. That's really the only thing I'm confident speaking on here. We just don't know who's going to be in or out.
Yeah, I just like we don't have a ton of value on the slate, and if they're in a and like especially if Lamar Stevens also ends up out in this spot, and like they're just literally running, they only have then Wenyen Gabriel and Jemison to play at the 5. Wenyen Gabriel better get those games in now. That dude's gonna be in Puerto Rico in like 4 days.
Yeah, I will say this though, like even with Jaren Jackson out, Jemison is far from a lock for me at center. Like we've just talked about so many good centers. And you don't even have to spend up. Miles Turner and Duren. I mean, Duren especially, like one center spot is locked. And then I like Turner a lot. Vooch, I mean, I don't know.
Relative to salary, I have Turner and Jemison graded out the same. I do have Duren a bit ahead of both of those guys, though.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're prioritizing a guy like Luka, then Jemison is going to be a lot more valuable than Miles Turner.
Yeah, that salary, we just don't have a lot of guys that have that sort of salary structure. So I'm very intrigued by him. Do you like anything else here? Like, if Scottie Pippen plays, is he interesting at 4,400? He's 3% owned right now.
Yeah, he stands out as the top leverage play on the slate. I just don't know what they're doing. I mean, you got DeJon Garreau now in the mix. Pippen definitely in play if he's in. Like, I'm not buying that he's 18% to be optimal and only 7% ownership. Like, one of those is going to change.
Yep.
But he will be a good play. And as of right now, he looks like a great tournament play. So does Santi Aldama. So that could be a thing too.
Yeah, 6,300. Not the best game last time out, but should play 30 to 32 minutes if he's in. Nobody's going to be ahead of him, that's for sure. So much of this can change. Like if Santi Aldama, Scottie Pippen, Lamar Stevens all end up out, and we're playing all of these weirdos again, we're going to try to get to Jake LaRavia, Jordan Goodwin potentially. Like, this is just another spot where we need a little bit of help from the injury report because the trickle down effect is massive. But I think you want to keep your eye on Trey Jameson, and I think you want to keep your eye on Scottie Pippen if he's available. But more importantly, just you got to know you got to be ready to swap, and you got to know what that starting lineup is, because that's going to be the most important thing that you can see.
Yep.
I'm really sick and tired of talking about them. It's getting real old. Like, just keep the 10 o'clock games and drop that shit.
Yeah, same. I heard you say recently, I don't remember when, like, this might be the worst of the teams that it is. it's not just because the players are awful and they're like on their third and fourth rotation of guys. It's that they're always questionable every night.
Dude, they're live to have 12 guys out on the injury report today.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like,
just such a headache.
what is in the water there? What is going on with the medical? Like, do they even have doctors? Is it Dr. Nick from The Simpsons being like, I don't know. Like, what are we doing here? I've never seen a team have 12 dudes be hurt.
It's bizarre.
Like the amount of 10 days and 2 ways and injury exemptions and things that they have to just trot out a team is bonkers right now. It's so bad. Like, you know what's probably actually really ridiculous? What a lottery it is to play Charlotte-Memphis showdown. Like somebody's probably priced real dumb and they might play 34 minutes tonight.
Yeah. Man, if you're like playing Charlotte Memphis showdown hard tonight, man, maybe take a step back, but I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, there's some next level degeneracy going on. If you're like, oh, sorry, I can't do anything tonight. I got to be ready from 7:30 to 8 o'clock so I can get my Charlotte Grizzlies showdown lineups in.
I've never seen or thought of a black hole like this in DFS like Memphis has become.
It's the worst that I can ever remember. There are 12 guys on their injury report right now.
Oh, it's unbearable.
It's like, I mean, it's easier to just list who's not on it at this point. Let's
100%.
go to Cleveland. Let's go to Cleveland. Cavs 6-point dogs in New Orleans, 216 total. Have we gotten the Donovan Mitchell tweet today?
No.
All right. Well, Donovan Mitchell is, I don't want to say it because then people are going to lose their minds. Donovan Mitchell is questionable with a left knee bone bruise. We still have no Evan Mobley, no Max Strus, no Dean Wade. Do we know what happened to Dean Wade?
Well, it was personal.
Yeah, but it's been personal for like 3 or 4 games now.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into it.
Which seems bad for him.
Yeah, it does. Usually not something good. So
now
prayers up to him, I guess.
Yeah, fingers crossed for. Hopefully he just, I don't know, like had a baby and wanted to hang out. I have no idea. One is owning.
No, sometimes life stuff could just take longer than you think.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to remember that, like, it sounds ridiculous, but this is just a job to Dean Wade.
Right.
And to like a lot of these guys. Like sometimes your life just was like, yo, man, I got to be like, I need to take a week.
I know that Anthony Rendon got killed for that, but a lot more players feel that way than the public wants to hear.
Right.
So, I mean, they're humans. Like, I think that just gets lost.
And let's be clear here. Everyone listening to this show goes to work a lot of the time and doesn't exactly bring their A game or their B game or their C game. It's just jobs. They just happen to be really good at that. Nobody gets mad at accountants for just like hanging out on some random day because they're really good with numbers. Like that's just not a thing. People got to get over that shit. Yeah, if somebody does that in like game 6 of the finals, you'd probably prefer them to be like a little bit more invested, but maybe not on a Tuesday in March.
I feel like the whole dichotomy just changed when the players started making so much money. Yeah. They became unrelatable to the common folk. So that's where people always like to go to. It's very like, true. How could he blah, blah, blah? He's getting paid. Well, money isn't the answer to everything, you know?
It was the same with Dame being like, yeah, man, it really sucks to like be in Milwaukee and like not have my family with me and not be around all of my friends. And we all lived on the same block. And people were like, oh, you wanted to leave Portland. It's like, well, that's not really the point, man. He's just like, yeah, he's pretty sad. He doesn't see his family anymore. Like, that's all it is.
Like you can make a lot of money and have feelings too. Like,
yeah, like he's doing the best thing for his family, doing the best thing for like trying to succeed at his craft, but it's also pretty sad to be away from your kids and like go through a divorce and not see your parents a lot.
What gets me is so many people complain about athletes not giving like truthful responses. And then when they do, they just get destroyed for them.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Like there's no incentive to do that unless you're doing it on your own medium. Like,
right.
Nobody wants to hear anybody give a truthful answer because they're just going to get destroyed.
Exactly. It's a shame.
Jordan asked, what's the finals equivalent for accountants? Larry said basically tax day. I would have said like the turn. Well, like turning over your fiscal year. It's usually a pretty brutal set of time. Cleveland's highest owned guy on DraftKings is 3%, either Mitchell, Okoro, or Allen. It's 11% to Allen on FanDuel, where he continues to maintain a power forward eligibility that does not exist. Even if Mitchell is out, I don't think there are overwhelmingly good plays for Cleveland, but they certainly open up a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. We've kind of read this book before recently with Cleveland. Just a really tough spot. And they're now at the point where they're so shorthanded where like their offense is struggling. So it doesn't mean on any given day these guys can't be good. Price is up. Tough spot. I'm good on Cleveland here. Like, I hope Cleveland gets the dub tonight, but I'm not really looking to roster many of them in DFS.
Now, I would certainly bump up Garland if Mitchell is out. LeVert probably looks a little bit better, but I don't think that we're drowning in value here, even if Mitchell ends up out.
Same.
Kind of a similar story on the Pelicans side, but all these dudes look the same to me. 14% ownership to Zion, around 10 to Larry Nance, and then just like scattered single digits for everybody else. Most of these guys look the same. I have 2, 4, 6. I have 8 different Pelicans in 6% of my lineups, or upwards of 9%. That whole entire range, 6 to 9. Nice.
Yeah, New Orleans looks better than Cleveland here. It's not a good spot for New Orleans, but Cleveland is shorthanded, so their defense has suffered a little bit. They're not like as vaunted as they would be if they were fully healthy. Zion is a solid play here. The Pelicans remind me a little bit of the Bulls. I think the Pelicans players are better. The spot is better for the Bulls. Yeah, I think any Zion, Brandon Ingram, I get any time I'm good with. So yeah, your boy Grady Dick popping.
Dick's
reloaded.
popping.
Dick is popping out.
Nice. That's good stuff. The Cialis play of the day is Grady Dick. Oh, now if he's going to be doing this stuff, we really need like a Blue Chew ad or something. Jordan Frank, you watching this show? Get on that stuff, man. We need some business ops in the penis enhancement field. So get it going. I used the good word, Jordan. Don't look at me like that. That could have been worse. Other Jordan. Too many Jordans. Yeah, I got a little bit of everything here. I'd be happy to get some Zion. I'd be happy to get some CJ or Brandon Ingram or whatever, but I don't see any one of them as a priority. I just kind of have like one Pelican and everything.
Yeah, makes sense.
We do have to hit Avi's super chat. Just dropped it in here now. I'm heavy on Jared Allen. Any upside for him? I mean, like he's good. He's going to play 36 minutes. He's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. I think he's sort of at the upper bound of what his price is going to be, which means like squeezing. You're looking for like 50 tonight. That's a big number. Can he do that? Yeah, of course. It's a big ask. There's a reason he's 3% owned.
He definitely has upside. I mean, he just put up like a 60 spot against Minnesota, but it's another really tough spot, and it's the center position for me. On FanDuel at power forward, much more inclined to roster him.
Final thing for me to touch on before we close it out with the last game. If your guys are interested in golf, we've got the Players Championship coming up tomorrow. If you use the promo code PLAYERS, PLAYERS, you can get 1 week of the PGA lineup generator for less than $5. It's like $4.92 or something like that. You could lock players, swap players, export up to 20 lineups via CSV. You can basically build yourself the perfect portfolio. If you're only like a 1 lineup guy, 3 lineup guy, I mean, you could do up to 150 if you need to. You just got to incrementally export if you get to that point. But this is going to be a spot where you can build a chalky lineup, a contrarian lineup, a balanced lineup, depending on which contest you're looking for. This is just going to be the easiest way for you to put together quality lineups for a golf tournament tomorrow. And it's not just putting together a quality lineup. We're handling the generation on the back end for you. We create thousands upon thousands of lineups And we evaluate them and get rid of everything that we don't think is up to snuff. And then we present the rest to you. You could either click save when it pops up or click discard. Another lineup pops up right in front of you. Perfect app on mobile, I might add. Again, the promo code is players. We're only talking about this on live shows. You get 1 week of the PGA lineup generator for less than $5. Take advantage, guys. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Hell of a deal. Hell of a deal. I saw your DM. Golden State Warriors, 7-point dogs in Dallas, 233 total. Still no Steph Curry, which is allowing us to get to 10 to 15% ownership on Andrew Wiggins, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, and Trace Jackson Davis. A little bit of ownership also coming into Jonathan Kuminga. Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, both significantly more owned on the FanDuel side. Do you like any of these pieces of the Warriors here in a decent spot against the Mavs?
Not as much as I thought I might. Their pricing is up. When Steph is out, it's less of like one guy really taking over and kind of more of a shared approach. It's a good spot against Dallas. I mean, Chris Paul would probably be the one guy that I mean, he doesn't look that much better than the other guys, but I think he's my favorite. Price probably where he should be, but I still think there's meat on the bone at 6,900. Is there anyone on Golden State that stands out to you?
I kind of like 7% owned Kuminga just for like what this slate is and how concentrated some of the ownership is on some guys. Like I have no issue getting like 7K feels like a lot, but at the same time, like I don't really mind trying to get to him at that price tag. Position works for me too. You know, it's a power forward, it's fine, especially for this type of slate. I got to 15%, he's 7% owned. It's the type of guy that I'm happy to like take a little bit of a stand on, but nothing too crazy. Do you think they change the starting lineup? Or do you think they go back to the Draymond at center and Trace Jackson Davis off the bench again?
So they won last game. Did they start the second half like the same way they started the first half last game?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm pulling it up. Yeah, no changes.
So yeah, I'd expect them. They won that game. I expect them to go back to that. That was, I can't remember. I think that Matt Butler pointed out on Twitter about their lineup last game. It ended up being right. So appreciate that. And yeah, I think they go right back there tonight.
There we go. On the Dallas side, we've got 26% ownership coming into Luka, around 18 to Daniel Gafford, which I'll be honest, I don't love, but we do. That's for sure. Single digits to everybody else. I kind of like this team, but in a weird way. I assume we're on the same page. If you can pay up for Luka, you want to do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's not about Luka. It's about the guys you need to roster to get to him is the only argument against him. And even that argument right now seems thin without he's playing. Like Luka's been a must, like a need play more times than he hasn't been. So
yeah.
I think that just building around Luka on any of these slates is a fine move. Now, on the same hand, like he's had games where he hasn't dominated before, and his ownership's continuing to get higher and higher. So the game theory side of it suggests that he's not like an auto play, but for me, it's Luka looks amazing. It's who do you have to roster to get to Luka? Who are you sacrificing to get to him? I don't think it's that hard to get to him tonight. The ownership makes sense.
We started to free up a little bit more value, so I wouldn't even be surprised to see that creep up a little bit. What do you think about the ownership to Gafford right now? I just feel like we have so many centers that it's easy to just use somebody else.
Same. Now he is like the cheapest of the guys I like.
Yeah.
So like I like him about as much as Wendell Carter Jr. and Richards. He's cheaper, but the ownership's there. So I'm with you. Easy spot to get different. I'm really looking at Duren as a lock. And then I think I like Miles Turner maybe slightly more than you do. And I also like Vooch. And we poo-pooed his price tag, but I did say like I think Kelly O is a fine like tournament option at 7K. So I don't love Gafford's ownership either. Like I don't hate it. It's not like it doesn't make sense to me. I just think there's a lot of ways to get off that.
By the way, I'm over the field on Turner, so we're on the same page there.
Okay, cool.
So I have 23% of a 7% owned Kyrie Irving right now. That's another spot where it's just like, oh, that seems like a really easy way to get a little bit different. Like at some point in time, Luka's going to have a game where Kyrie's just cooking and he's like Luka takes his foot off the gas. And I also have 15% of a 5% owned PJ Washington, which scares me a little bit. But again, it's just another one of these like relatively low owned plays that are going to be out there for 30 minutes that they're not on Detroit.
For sure. I really like the Kyrie ownership, the lack thereof, and just the inherent leverage you get from going there because, the games that he nuts are going to be less Luka games, you'd think.
Yeah. So Kyrie Irving, sneak play. Now we need one more sneak play before we get out of here. Olrat hit us with the super chat. Can you give me the Josh Hart play tonight? Under 5% owned on DraftKings. So I have two of them. Kobe White isn't under 5% owned. He's 6% right now, but he's 7,800, comparable-ish price tag to Josh Hart. Wouldn't be surprised for him to go and have a big day, especially in that matchup. And then if you want someone a little bit lower that I don't think can have the full Josh Hart experience, give me Cole Anthony at 2.5% owned.
I'm with both those.
I'll add one more, Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with a guy in the game we just talked about. Draymond Green.
Certainly a guy that can go out there and drop like a really ridiculous triple-double. 6,800.
He's Josh Hart-like in terms of what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a decent comp. I like it. I like the shout. There you go, boys. Enjoy it. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Stay on the stream. Hit that like button. Good luck. We'll talk to you later.
Hey, it's that time of week again. Time to induct you fine people into the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Give away a bunch of Stochastic packages on top of that as well. And all you got to do to get involved, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet those wins to us at StochasticHOF when you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Let's see what we got on tap this week. Cheesy T with a $17,000 win. Shout out to Eric Lindquist for his nuke of the night. Second place will have to do. Couldn't have done it without the tools and videos by Stochastic. I rep the OG logo. Hope you don't mind. And then Jacob Hiller. Gotta be careful with that one. The last few days have been good to me. Big shout out to Stochastic and staff for providing absolute best tool on the market, period. Up 90 grand and some change in the last 7 days. Simple to quickly and efficiently adjust to however you like to approach a GPP. Nice work, Jacob. 90 grand in a week. Tyler Mattis, thought we had first locked up, but Henley let me down. Still a great week. Shout out to Stochastic and Greg Ehrenberg, who always give great insights into the tools. $15,000 win for Tyler. And for James, a $5,000 win at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Man, a few words. Wayne started playing again the past week. I won this with the Sims tool. Do I qualify for a free month of NBA? LOL, thanks a million. Was very happy to see that Nurk ejected also. Yes, you do qualify, my friend. And Steven with a $15,000 win on top of that. Man, huge week for the Stochastic avatars. Kilo Whiskey, little late into the Hall of Fame, but never too late. Thanks to the Stochastic tools. Thank you guys. Second place in the N1. And Ben P's back. Back-to-back top threes using FanDuel, on FanDuel using the Sims. Almost pulled off the solo dub, but tied with different lineups. 4 in the top 40 out of 71,000 entries. And how about Ben? The playback stream after lock is definitely a huge help. Thanks, guys. Ben again split both of these last night, but another great night. Third time in less than a week. Yeah, Sims Tool coming up big for Ben. Dave Oliver, thank you guys for the great breakdowns and the Sims crush again. Elway's Army's been on a massive heater lately. Unhappy Cowboys fan, don't blame you. Won 2 days before my birthday and did not post. Is it too late for the Stochastic Hall of Fame shout out? Never too late, brother. Never too late. LV finished tied first in a field of 14,000 plus and second in a field of 10K. Smaller stakes, but got it done. Rocking the logo. Can I get my free month, please? Absolutely. And Willie Jenkins, first place in the Minimax. Binked my first NBA GPP. Thanks entirely to Stochastic. We keep going. Sean Geesey back in the list. Grab second in the late slate 4-point play. Shout out to Stochastic for the best tools in the game. And Jay, Stochastic Sims have been on fire. All credit to the tools for taking first in this contest, helping me get the second top finish in as many weeks. It's not a coincidence that the top 3 in this contest were all repping the avatar. And Rob came fourth in a field of 5,900 NHL tournament, took first in a smaller field NHL tournament. Really appreciate what you guys do every day. Mac, need to thank Slim Cliffy and Josh for their daily guidance. We got a couple NHL ones in here and weekly entertainment on Stochastic DFS. And then Moo Poo did it again. First place, $1,000 in some MMA action, followed by BK. Shout out to Eric and Stochastic on Malik Monk. $1 into 1,500 isn't bad. That'll do it. All of your winners inducted into the Hall of Fame. Welcome back if you've been here before. Remember, all you got to do to get involved, to get a free month, any Stochastic package of your choice up to $200 is finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more at any entry point and tweet those wins to us at Stochastic HOF.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, and lots of offers for us today. We got the BetMGM deal, we've got the PGA lineup generator deal that we're going to be talking to you about, and the only thing that we're going to ask for you guys in return, the only one thing that I really need out of you guys is to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Look, it really does help us out a whole bunch. It only takes a half second of your time. It is no monetary cost to you at all. So hit the like button, subscribe. If you're watching in playback, do the same deal. Follow us over on playback tonight. Eric and I doing the post-lock show together. Josh is going to be out tonight. It is his wife's birthday. They've got some dinner plans. So I was like, maybe I'll do it solo, but I figured I'd ask Eric, see if Eric wanted to hang out with me for another hour. And he was so graceful enough to lend myself another hour of his time. So looking forward to that. So definitely stick around for the playback show afterwards, everybody. Eric, how are you feeling about tonight's slate? We got a lot going on for a 7-gamer, which is to be expected this time of season. Is Eric muted, or is this just me?
Nope, it was just me trolling you. I had the thing clicked. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
But anyway,
I feel like you were not trolling me, and you just didn't know you were muted until I brought it up.
yeah, I had no idea until just now. Anyway, I think this slate is quite interesting. Hour and a half sprint slate of sorts. The 2 evening games off of the slate, which is okay, I suppose, for tonight. But this is definitely an hour and a half where we're going to be paying very close attention to some certain things. We've got a lot of pronounced chalk up here at the top. I think most of it makes sense. I mean, Toronto, you never know until that lineup comes out here. There's no reason that they have to go back to Bruce Brown. I know that everybody got completely burned by Liberty the other night. But I do think that there's just something you have to be on high alert for every single time. But with Quickly, Dick and Brown, all of them just hanging out near the top of ownership, there's going to be a lot of ways that we're going to have to try to find to get different, because that Toronto-Detroit game is all over the top of ownership.
Yeah, it is going to be a quite popular spot to target, but for good reason. It's a 7-game slate. It's an insane amount of value, because if you look at the overall injury report for the Toronto Raptors, let me pull this up. Also, I mean, we're seeing like the Detroit Pistons favored in back-to-back games. I'm fairly sure that's the only time this has happened the entire season.
Since the Eisenhower administration.
Chris Boucher, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, all out for the season. Then for this particular game, RJ Barrett is out. Gary Trent is out. Gary Trent went from being questionable to doubtful to out over the course of about 30 seconds, which that was new. Never seen that happen before on an injury report. But they're like questionable, doubtful, out. It was a very quick moving situation. Then inversely, Emmanuel quickly went from questionable, probable to in just as quickly there. So no pun intended at all. Eric, trying to get your headphones situated there. What's happening?
I suppose. I mean, it sounds like there's an echo, so we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah, Mod Up T saying Eric, Eric's mic is picking up Greg. You guys
There
don't
you
want to
go.
hear me twice? Any points I make?
I don't want to hear
if I have
you
a real
once.
zinger making fun of Eric. You get to hear it twice. That's not appealing. How's that, guys? Better?
Whatever. There it is. Goodbye. That did nothing. Fuck you, go Broncos. It did something.
Yeah,
Just
Eric
did
can
it.
hear better. I don't. But let's see what the people say. See, Obi-Wan says LOL. That doesn't help us know if it solved the problem. Better. Good now. Cool. So we were all set. Everything is all taken care of and good to go. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up here is people know frequently I will get off of early games on the slate to keep myself flexible for some later.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, you will. Oh, hell yeah, brother. Oh, sorry. Got excited. It's a slate with Dick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel you. It's funny. I have a feeling that for the next 20 years, I don't know. Are we really going to be doing DFS shows for 20 years? If we are, and Grady Dick, who's looked very promising, is it just going to be every time we bring up Grady Dick, it's the same puns, it's the same jokes for the next 20 years?
Well, just wait until he has a kid, Grady Dick Jr., and then Grady Dick the third. Ooh.
Could be. Could be. I did see a tweet that made me laugh quite a bit earlier. I retweeted it where somebody was confused how Michael Porter Jr. and Jonte Porter could be brothers when one of them is a junior and the other one isn't. These are the people we have to beat in DFS every night, Eric.
Then somehow they get Sam Hauser stealing games off the bench. I just can't. And then Sam Hauser surprised. I've never had somebody surprise start that I had in 30% of lineups before after he gets freaking whatever. We're moving on.
Yesterday's slate, incredibly tilting. First off, the Josh Hart game, incredibly unnecessary. He was 1% owned. Tibbs left him in garbage time when they're up by like 35 points in the fourth quarter, just rack up more statistics. That was annoying. Then we get to the Celtics situation. We get the news. Peyton Pritchard starting over Sam Hauser. What do? Like a good, knowledgeable good boy. I go into the late swap tool and I go, I have to get off Sam Hauser as aggressively as possible to get myself to Peyton Pritchard. Then the game starts and all of a sudden Sam Hauser's out on the court. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And all that being said, I get to the end of the slate and I actually had a chance to do really well. I was like 15th in the $100 single entry with Giannis in the lineup. Nobody else played Giannis in that contest but me. And what happens? He doesn't end up playing at the end of the game because of the blowout situation. So that lineup in single entry, if I just end up getting like 5 more fantasy points out of Giannis, I would have had a massively profitable slate last night. But Bucks getting blown out by the Kings, tilting. Josh Hart playing garbage time for no reason at all, tilting. And then the Celtics just telling us the wrong starting lineup, also tilting for no reason. But neither here nor there. We do have a super chat here. Oh, a couple of super chats that have come in. First, shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Chris, as always, we appreciate your support there. Then Phil Senzig wants to know Gucci G and Eric E's dirty secret of the night. Who's a contrarian option you're liking for the slate?
Dirty secret play of the slate? What is that?
I assume he wants to know what is our dirty secret of the night. I assume he's asking us a DFS question, unless you want to go elsewhere with your answer.
No, not particularly. I think I'll refrain from that. There are tons of sub 5% guys, whether you want to look at like Brandon Ingram, Paulo Banchero, Bam Adebayo. I think the guy has to be Joker at 12K, considering I know it's a terrible matchup. And I know that I took his less than 25.5 points today over on pick 6. But you know what? Gosh darn it. It is Nikola Jokic here at sub 5%, which you never get. And we just had this exact same thing play out last slate where we had Luka and Joker. I ended up jamming both of them, had just like 5% more Luka when it's all said and done. I like Joker more, but then we got more and more value. I don't understand how you look at 33% Luka and 4.4% Joker, and I don't really care who it's against. Don't you just want to get yourself to some more Jokic as a result of that, Greg?
So I'll know in a second. I've got a sim running right now, and then I'll know exactly what I have of Jokic. But at least per your logic, without me seeing what my lineups are going to look like, which once again, I'll know in about 10 seconds here, is it does kind of remind me of the Giannis spot last night. The reason I liked Giannis as much as I did yesterday was we had a really popular SGA. We had a really popular Jason Tatum, and then you said Giannis at a fraction of those guys' ownerships. And so I thought, here's a good pivot to make. And it looked really good in the early going until the Bucks get just destroyed by the Kings. He doesn't finish out the fourth quarter. But yeah, just from that standpoint, where we've got a slate with a good amount of value and everybody's gravitating towards the same plays on the Raptors for pretty good reason, considering the injury report, the matchup, and all of that. So I think that's one of the more reasonable ways you could differentiate is just go, here's the pay up option that is the lowest ownership. That's still obviously a significant upside, honestly, where everybody's gravitating towards the same value plays. I would rather get off some of the high end options that everybody's getting to than try to pivot off of the low end guys that are just supreme value plays. It's going to be easier to find yourself upside on the high end than finding comparable value plays on the low end, if that follows.
100%.
And as far as my lineups here, let's see, who's somebody that is not all that popular that I'm finding myself overweight to the field on. Ooh, okay. Here's a dirty secret for you guys. Filthy, dirty secret.
So
Scottie Pippen Jr. Scottie Pippen Jr. only projected for 5% ownership right now. Now, he is officially listed as questionable to play, and the Memphis injury report is an absolute mess for tonight. We've got Santi Aldama questionable, Scottie Pippen Jr. questionable, Lamar Stevens questionable. But if you look at the amount of players who are out tonight for the Grizzlies, it's a lot of players who are not going to be available. So Scottie Pippen is somebody who 5% ownership. I don't think there's any reason we should look at the Memphis Grizzlies and be like, oh my God, they have to play Jordan Goodwin big minutes. So if you want to be contrarian, I can make a case there for Scottie Pippen Jr. I don't think there's anything set in stone with these minutes for Memphis. We just have to know that he's going to be in because he is questionable.
Correct. And Jordan Goodwin did play 32 minutes last time out. Giroux played decently well in a couple of minutes as well, 21 that he ended up playing. So like, obviously I'm not going to play Goodwin or Giroux, but I'm just saying that like, you're talking about a guy at 4,400 who had been the guy that they wanted to give run, who's a good fantasy performer in Scottie Pippen Jr. So all of that logic tracks. Obviously, Toronto, Detroit is going to eat up a lot of the field's lineups. So if you can find a piece or two, I don't really care what that piece or two is, that's value later on, I like it. So Scottie Pippen Jr., that's a nice shout out.
Injury report for the Grizzlies, by the way, that we'll go through the guys who are questionable are Aldama, Lamar Stevens, and Scottie Pippen Jr. We've got Vince Williams Jr., Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. all doubtful. And then, of course, the slew of players who are already out for Memphis: Zaire Williams, Derrick Rose, John Morant, Brandon Clark, Marcus Smart, Yuta Watanabe. It's just an insanely long injury report. So this is a scenario where we could potentially only see 8 players active for Memphis tonight. If that's the case, it's a lot of minutes up for grabs. So it's a team that I like getting to, and then we can make some pivots if we end up finding out that like, hey, Scottie Pippen's out. All right, maybe I do go back over to Jordan Goodwin. Maybe we get to more Gigi Jackson if Santi Aldama is out. So Memphis is to me the dirty secret on the slate, the value spot that people are a little bit afraid to get to. By the way, Jalen Verse asked us a question about FanDuel, and then we also got a question from Ace of Spade about DK tiers for tonight. So let's do the DK tiers question. Then we'll hit on Jalen Verse's question about contrarian options on FanDuel. Starting with tiers, Eric, who are you liking in tier 1? Because I think this is Luka in a blowout.
Yep, by a lot.
Okay, Luka in tier 1. Tier 2, I'm going to go towards Cade Cunningham. Cade, we've seen a big uptick in usage from him in the second half of the season. And Cade also, he's looking like a real dude going forward. I really hope that Detroit could put anything with a pulse around him, because I think Cade could be a real star in this league, but it's going to be hard considering the atmosphere he's surrounded with. But anyway, Cade for me in tier 2.
He was a no doubt number 1 pick, Greg. It's not like a big leap to say that he's really good. He is very, very good at basketball. It's just, as you said, he's got an absolute trash heap, dumpster fire, bottom of the frickin' ocean floor organisms, parasites, everything hanging out with him in Detroit. So that's a problem. But yeah, Cade Cunningham in tier 2.
Cade it is. Let's go and look at tier 3. Tier 3, that is going to be Vooch for me.
Same.
All right. Tier 4 then. Tier 4, that is DeMar DeRozan. If you guys are uncomfortable playing 2 Bulls together, I'd rather get off Vooch than get off DeRozan, and I would change Vooch to Zion in that case.
Yep, same.
Next tier,
Duren.
5, where we have Duren. We've got Kobe White, Kelly Olynyk. I'm going to go with Duren. How about yourself?
Yep, same Z's, my guy.
All right, maybe tier 6, we could differentiate a little. I'll let you go first in tier 6.
Yeah, this is Chris Paul.
All right, I'll go with Mikal Bridges. Bridges and Paul project very similarly. If that's one spot where you could differentiate, I'm happy to do that and say Mikal Bridges in tier 6. Chris Paul also makes a whole bunch of sense. Still going to likely be starting at point guard for the Warriors with Steph Curry being out. And Chris Paul, listen, I know that Chris Paul is super old and he hasn't had the same opportunity this year with Golden State that he's had with other teams in the past. He's still good when he's out there on the court and he's getting his minutes. He's still been a good fantasy producer. So, yeah, Chris Paul, definitely somebody we could look at there. And that wraps up tier, right? That was all 6. Yep, that's all 6 tiers. So Ace of Spade, thank you for the super chat. Now, let's talk about the FanDuel side of things. Xiaolin Verse wants to know, who are 3, let me make sure I read this correct. Yeah, 3 ways to get different in a FanDuel GPP. And then he says, thanks, pimps. Any contrary, first off, do you have lineups built out for FanDuel?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I did today.
So let's try to find some contrarian options for the people to differentiate their FanDuel lineups. Eric, is there anything you are liking at really low ownership on the FanDuel side of things?
Yeah, I like a lot of the Memphis guys that we had talked about before. I think on FanDuel, they're a little bit more appealing. Luke Kennard's at 5K. And if you get Pippen out and Goodwin there and whatever else, I mean, Luke Kennard is still at 5K, somebody that is going to have one of those games where he spikes a massive 3-point upside, knocks down some shots. Of course, that can be valuable over on DK. We just got news. Scottie Pippen expected to play Wednesday. So that's good to know. But Luke Kennard at 5K, I mean, that's kind of a price point deal. Santi Aldama, John Conchar, 2 of the most positively leveraged players over on FanDuel, with Conchar at 4,900. That's really appealing. So shout out to your Memphis guys on FanDuel. They're showing up a lot for me. Yeah.
So, and Sledge Daddy in the playback chat said he's available, but will he play? So we don't know for sure that he, like, just because a player's in, you never know for sure they're going to play, but Memphis is so shorthanded. My expectation is he does play a decent amount of minutes. I like him as a contrarian play, project for 5% ownership on DraftKings, 11% on FanDuel. So he's also somebody who I like getting to over on FanDuel. So yeah, Scottie Pippen's going to be one for me at 11% ownership. If we're looking for another option, I'm going, who did you said Conchar as well, right?
Yes.
I like Conchar, but I don't want to give all the same ones as you. So I'm going to stick with Scottie Pippen. Miles Bridges is another one, 10% owned on FanDuel that I think is being a little bit underutilized by the field. And then I'll say Jante Porter. Porter still remains only 8% owned on FanDuel. He's a really good points per minute fantasy producer. And the minutes, this is such a shorthanded Toronto Raptors team. And Porter, we've seen all year, he's a good fantasy producer when he gets onto the court. It's just kind of unknown when he's going to get that opportunity. But good matchup for him tonight against the Detroit Pistons. And he was playing enough minutes to have an upside his last time out. We saw him end up playing... See, how many minutes did we get out of Porter last game? I know it wasn't a crazy amount, but it was 22 minutes. 22 minutes for a guy who scores over a fantasy point per minute for the season. And then also, it's these minutes, they can be very variant for Jante Porter. And this is a team that is not competitive at all this time of year. They're 3.5-point underdogs to Detroit. That's about as non-competitive on paper as
not great.
Could possibly
not
be.
Great, Bob.
I think there's a really strong case for the Raptors to give some more playing time to Porter, especially if the game in the later stages, I don't know that they have to play Kelly Olynyk over Jante Porter. We could see Porter close some of these games. So give me Jante Porter for low ownership. It's a low ownership play. I wouldn't like him if he was chalk today, but at 8% owned over on FanDuel, there is a chance he gets more extended minutes than the 22 he played last game, considering how well he played. That would make him look like a really good tournament option. So like being overweight to him.
Yep. And I'm pretty positive that, well, I mean, he can't be related to Michael Porter Jr., obviously.
Yeah, one is a junior, the other doesn't.
Yeah, he has a junior. I mean, he would have to be Jante Porter Jr. Should we just call him that from now on?
Even equally confusing, how could they be related if they don't have the same first name? Nobody brings these things up.
It's ridiculous. Well, also, one has chronic back problems. Does Jante Porter have chronic back problems? No way they could be related. Oh, wait.
It's totally different.
Oh, well, there you go. In college, it was a back, by the way.
I thought it was a knee.
It was always a back issue for Michael Porter Jr.
No, Jante Porter.
Oh, Jante Porter has a knee issue. I didn't even know that until just now. See, they can't be brothers. No way.
Yeah, that's Jante Porter. I thought he had a knee issue.
They are brothers.
Maybe I'm remembering this incorrectly. Yeah.
There you go. I know for a fact it's back problems for Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. back, Jante Porter knee. Totally unrelated. These guys have nothing in common at all.
Yep.
By the way, the next super chat we got is from David Eckenrode. He wants to know, Jante Porter, yay or nay on the DK? The Sims gave me a ton. Yeah, just brought it up. I think Porter's a really good contrarian option. I didn't look ahead to see your super chat. See, that was going to be the next question.
Just
So,
had to do the Joaquin Phoenix
David,
from Gladiator.
We're like-minded individuals here, David. I do like Jonte Porter. Next super chat is from I'm a loser till I win the millie. Says, what is the optimal low-owned guy on DK at any price? Scottie Pippen. I mean, I feel bad that I'm repeating myself with some of these answers, but how many low-owned guys can I be overweight to? So I got to say Scottie Pippen Jr. on DraftKings.
Well, I mean, you're not from the future like the guy who won yesterday.
Oh, the guy from the future who played 2 1% owned guys and then also knew the Celtics were going to change their starting lineup back to Sam Hauser.
Yeah, it's just disgusting. I think the most likely guy, if we're talking about anybody sub 4K period, if we're going to make Jonte Porter the cutoff, because again, 4K, I think he's the most likely guy. Sims Tool bears that out. Boom Bust Tool bears that out. Wouldn't it be Marcus Sasser probably at 3,300? I'm not going to have a lot of him, but Marcus Sasser would probably be the next answer just because, I mean, there's a lot of ways for him at 3,300 to get you a bucket at a 0.94 rate to possibly end up optimal.
Yeah. I mean, he isn't he? Let me read.
He's popular, 25%,
like
but he said cheap doesn't matter price point. I just basically said like low owned, cheap. Well, he's not low owned, but I'm saying like 3,300, he'd be like the cheapest guy that I could really point to be like, oh yeah, he has a good chance. Like, unless you think Jalen McDaniels is going to play a lot more than I think.
Let me go and look. Yeah, I just wouldn't consider Sasser low owned.
Yeah, I don't either. So that
was the question.
Jalen McDaniels 14.5%. No, I'm just kind of working through like cheapies and low owned, like gotcha, working through everything here.
Yeah, so I'm a loser till I win a millie. I'm going to go with Scottie Pippen Jr. there. By the way, also, as far as Jonte Porter, he's very low owned on FanDuel at 8%. He is projected for 20% ownership on DraftKings. So still, somebody looks good on DraftKings, but FanDuel, I view him as like a real contrarian play. DraftKings just not contrarian. Nope. Question from T22 Stokes says, loving the Sims, guys. Like to see that you're liking. For anybody else who wants to test out our Sims product, sign up using the link we have below. Can you get you access to Discord? It's going to allow you to build lineups, simulate lineups. So yeah, check it out if you guys haven't already. It's something that's helped me be really profitable this year. But T22 Tokes, look at this. He's infringing on Phil Senzig's territory because T22 Tokes wants to know who the lotion play of the night is, Eric. We've never seen this before.
Put the lotion on the skin. Who's it going to be? Can it be Emmanuel Quickly tonight? This dude's going to be able to chuck and do whatever the hell he wants. I'm going to go with a lotion play of the night. They're going to put lotion on each other. Emmanuel Quickly and Cade Cunningham. It'll be like you and me in New Jersey.
Nice. All right. Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Is this going to be taking place during the halftime show? Because we get to see that over in playback.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let me think. Lotion play. I mean, who better for the lotion play than Grady Dick? He's built for lotion.
Put the lotion on the skin.
Grady Dick, he's the lotion play. He's the exotic play. He's everything. He's all the bits in one. Grady Dick is my second most rostered player overall on the slate, only behind Bruce Brown in my lineups. He's simply not expensive enough considering what his current role is. And he's also played really well in some of these expanded minutes he's gotten as of late. Good match for him against the Detroit Pistons. He's really popular. All you guys are going to be playing him, but I'm still going to be overweight to the field on him. What's been really nice about Grady Dick, it's not just that he's playing well, he's scoring the ball. He's doing it in multiple stat categories. We're getting assists out of Grady Dick. Yeah. We're getting steals. We're getting rebounds. We're getting the visual appearance of what Grady Dick looks like. So, I mean, Grady Dick, he is going to be in about half of the field's lineups, and I don't think it's enough. I'm overweight to him.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dick night. It's a dick night, my friends.
Love. No, we're not going to let that get clipped by Jordan Klein. Continue on.
Deontay Smith wants to know, how do you get contrarian using the lineup generator? Yeah, so if you guys are using the lineup generator, and by the way, we have a sale going on here, and it's exclusive to people watching our shows. It's only a one-day sale. If you want to sign up for the PGA lineup generator, there's a link for it below. The promo code is PLAYERS, PLAYERS, like myself and Eric, all capital letters. When you sign up for it using that promo code PLAYERS, or just click the link because it's already loaded in, lineup generator, $4.92 for the Players Championship this week. The reason we wanted to give you guys a chance to, there's a milli maker on DraftKings for the Players Championship. So we were like, hey, let's try to figure out a way that we could really help people to maybe win $1 million this week. So we thought the PGA lineup generator the way to go with that. And once again, yeah, sign up using that link below if you guys are looking to play lineups for the Players Championship tomorrow. How to get contrarian. So Deontay Smith, you could click the contrarian setting, and on a slate like this, there is a good chance it's still going to give you some chalky options for sure. If you are looking at your lineup, you're like, boy, I've got some really high owned players in it. You could swap out individual players. So let's say you had Grady Dick in a lineup and you just said, don't want him, too much ownership. You could click on the right-hand side where you see looks like this. It's like the swap emoji. You click on that. It is going to show you all of our player projections, all of our ownership projections, and you could swap to somebody else who you might like, and using our ownership projections or player projections. But also, if you just select the contrarian setting, it's going to give you slightly more contrarian lineups. But also, keep in mind, you don't need to have every single player in a lineup to be contrarian for it to be contrarian. Like if you had Josh Hart in a lineup last night, I didn't have any with them. But if you had one lineup with Josh Hart, you could have played the chalk at every other position and you had a pretty contrarian lineup. Just something to keep in mind.
Draymond
Mr.
Green
Biggs
is now questionable.
The Viagra play of the day. Eric, who's going to get you going tonight?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be fucking Trace Jackson Davis now. We just got Draymond Green downgraded to questionable. And that just tells me that we're getting a sub 5K starting Trace Jackson Davis more than likely.
Yeah, we just got word here. We'll read what we got. It is, Draymond Green now listed questionable. So you're under the assumption that means that Draymond will be out?
Yes. This just showed up now.
Yeah.
It would be shocking if in 2 hours we just found out he was actually playing. It feels like a scheduled rest kind of situation. And Trace Jackson Davis, welcome to the program. Great to see you. Happy to have you here. You're sub 5K. I'm going to jam you before 4 o'clock.
So how do we manipulate our lineups for this news now? Because this is the last locking game on the slate. We may not find out whether Draymond is in or out until the very final game tips off and every other game is locked.
Well, what's nice is you still have Gafford sitting there at center in the event that something were to happen. He's pulling quite a bit of ownership. He's 5K. $200 below him is Trace Jackson Davis. So that's a pretty easy swap to be making. I probably going to have lineups with both of them. Sorry, $100 less Trace Jackson Davis, 4,900 over on DraftKings. You can play two centers. I think what this probably does is you just look at Toronto, Detroit, and we have Jalen Duren, who is mega chalk there at 85 or at 6,700 against Toronto. I still like him, but like, I love the opportunity of late news and having it be uncertain because, like, I don't know, our brains work differently than I think maybe there's probably half the field that's watching shows and using data and doing the things correctly. And there's another half that basically are looking at like, oh, these are the top owned plays. Let's put these together. And they're not really thinking ahead to what could be the case. If you get Draymond Green out, based on what we just saw, Trace Jackson Davis starting 2 games ago, I find it very, 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 very unlikely that he's not the major beneficiary. He's a 1.16 fantasy point per minute guy. In that start, we got 24 minutes out of him. We got 26 off the bench. He's playing a pretty prominent role here for Golden State. That's the dude.
So, well, first off, I'm going to say if Draymond plays, I don't have interest in Trace Jackson Davis.
Same.
I know he got the extended minutes last game, but Draymond got into foul trouble and then fouled out at the end of the game too. So Trace Jackson Davis had to play the majority of the fourth quarter. Here's where I think is the best way to set yourself up for this situation if you're using the data and tools that's stochastic. I'm about to go into the Sims tool. I'm going to give a positive ROI boost to Daniel Gafford, which you had just kind of alluded to. Okay, here's why it makes sense.
You were listening.
Same exact reason you said. It is so convenient that Gafford's $100 more expensive. It would be very annoying if the price points were flipped. If Gafford was $4,900 and Trace Jackson Davis was $5,000, I'd be like, I don't know how to manipulate this. I'm just going to give the ROI boost to Daniel. I already like Gafford too. If I get stuck on Gafford, not a big deal. And another part of this too is when it comes to the center situation on the slate, there are centers I like, like I like Jonte Porter. There aren't centers I feel like I absolutely need to have though.
I'm 100% with you. I'm so glad that you were actually listening to me. Now I feel more important. That was good. Very important deal. What do we do with the rest of them here? Because Andrew Wiggins is up to 5,100. I mean, for me, this is just such a glaring price point. I think the other guy that I probably have interest in because he's a flat 3K is Dario Saric. 3K off the bench, backup. I'm not going to put Trace Jackson Davis at 30 minutes playing the backup 5. I mean, they could go to like small ball type. I mean, Kevon Looney probably gets into the rotation again. But Dario Saric is flat 3K, and he's been in the rotation to some extent. We only have him in for 5 minutes right now, but that's got to be the other dude who goes up to playing like 15, 16. And if you weren't 3K with multi-positional eligibility, I wouldn't think about it. But like, what do you think about Saric?
What it is? The problem is, I think Saric is probably a DNP if Draymond's in.
But that's not a problem if Draymond's out. Like, we would be trying to game plan for. And I get it. Like, there's enough value on this slate and enough good pieces that you don't have to do it. But like, he's a flat 3K. And if you ran into 18 minutes, like if you had just said it was 30-18 and Kevon Looney doesn't enter the rotation, like there's no way I'm going to click on Looney. But like, I think Saric probably becomes somebody who's very viable. You get Kleba on the other side. You get Derek Lively. Like, these aren't guys that I'd be that worried having Saric out there playing the 5 as. So like, if it weren't a 233 total here in a good game environment, maybe we just say screw it. But like, I want to think about a 3K Dario Saric a little bit more.
One other part about this that I want to ask you is we've talked about like, all right, we want to situate our lineups that were available to swap to Trayce Jackson-Davis, get to more of Gafford. How much of Gafford are you willing to go into lock with? I have a number in mind, so I'm curious if you do.
I mean, well, here's the thing is I'm going to want lineups with Gafford and him in it. Like, I'm probably not going to get above. Well, I mean, I have to rerun some stuff here too. I'm going to do one where I'm just going to bump projections and try to see what it would be with Draymond out and just kind of see where I'm landing at with that. Because again, Trayce Jackson-Davis goes from somebody that we have in for 23 minutes. I would be comfortable taking him up to 26 and a half. And he's going to show up a lot for me.
We just got a tweet from Donovan Mitchell. # let him know. You know what that means? Donovan Mitchell playing tonight.
I was waiting for I thought I had the alert on, but I guess not.
I was about to bring that up when we were walking through the rest of the injuries. I was going to say, boy, it's getting pretty late and we haven't had the Donovan Mitchell tweet yet. So good to go. Donovan Mitchell, when he tweets, let him know, usually means that he's in when he's listed as questionable. So Donovan Mitchell, we can feel good about him being out on the court for the Cavs. I wonder if sportsbooks are starting. They do. They're hip to this now. So all of the lines came down on FanDuel for the Cavs Pelicans game.
Buddy.
For honest, out of context, this is hilarious. The books had to take the lines down for a basketball game because Donovan Mitchell tweeted, let him know.
Honestly, there have been more important tweets about more important issues that have had larger trickle-down effects. So just saying. We got the normal starting lineup for the Pistons as well. These are good things.
Cunningham, Ivy, Fontecchio, Stewart, and Duren. By the way, Daniel Gafford, I was trying to give him an ROI boost to get him in a little bit more than half my lineups. That was the number I wanted to be at, and that's what I achieved. Daniel Gafford is in 52.7% of my lineups now, and unless something else changes heading into lock, that's the number it's going to be, barring any injury news for the next 22 minutes. Will I actually finish with 52.7% Daniel Gafford? I hope not, because what I'm hoping for is that I'm able to lower that number by Trayce Jackson-Davis potentially starting at center for the Warriors, and then some of that ownership being allocated to Trayce Jackson-Davis. So Gafford, 52.7%. That is my mark heading into lock to give me that flexibility to get to Trayce Jackson-Davis.
Love it.
All right, let's see what we have for our next super chat. We have a lot of questions. Boy, are we going to have to forego the nuke of the night? Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll try to fit.
Oh, Trayce Jackson-Davis is him now. Trayce Jackson-Davis is the nuke of the night now. Just don't hit the graphic. Don't do anything, Jordan Klein. We don't need to kill time. Let's just keep answering questions.
Related, I'm going to go with Gafford as somebody here who we could have as the placeholder. If you get him, cool. Not my favorite guy in the world on the slate, but I like the potential opportunity to turn him into Trayce Jackson-Davis. So I'm going to go with Daniel Gafford. If you have him in, it shouldn't kill your lineups, but if you do get the scenario where Green is ruled out, which both Eric and I think is the most likely scenario, you can load up on Trayce Jackson-Davis.
I'm also going to play Saric. I want to let it be known. I am going to play a lot of Saric.
Ryan Andriotti, best DK values for tonight. Whoa, the Toronto Raptors, my friend.
Yes, very much so.
Bruce Brown, Grady Dick, Daniel Gafford has to be in that mix now too, just considering the flexibility he affords you. So I'll say Bruce Brown, Grady Dick, and Gafford.
Love them all.
Thomas Ryan, each of y'all's favorite DK by position. Yes. So starting at point guard. Let's see. For me at point guard, Bruce. Actually, so I could use Bruce Brown at the small forward spot.
That's what I'll do too. Emmanuel quickly.
Shooting guard for me, that is Grady Dick.
Grady Dick.
Small forward, Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown.
Power forward, that is going to be, well, there's a couple of different ways I could go here. I'm going to answer Fontecchio, but there's a bunch of other power forwards I like as well. I mean, I like getting to Siakam at this spot. I like getting to Isaiah Stewart, but I'll answer Fontecchio.
Siakam for me.
And then center, that's going to be Gafford now.
That is going to be Trace Jackson Davis.
Next question is from Deuce Trey. FanDuel favorite plays position by position. All right, let's look at the FanDuel side of things. At point guard, that is going to be for me, Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic.
Shooting guard, Emmanuel
Quickly.
Small forward, Bruce Brown Jr.
Bruce Brown.
Power forward, Zion Williamson.
Kelly Olynyk.
And then center for me, that is going to be Kelly Olynyk. Well, let me see what Trace Jackson Davis is priced on.
Oh, yeah.
Trace
He's
Jackson
$6,200.
$6,200 on FanDuel. That is a way different scenario.
No, thank you. But he has power forward eligibility, so that's kind of a cluster. Yeah, center for me is Vooch.
All right, so there we have it. Top plays over on FanDuel at each position for us. And by the way, $6,200 for Trace Jackson Davis if he starts. Certainly still playable. I'm not going out of my way to play a $6,200 Trace Jackson Davis in the way that I'm willing to go out of my way to play him at $4,900 on DraftKings. Yeah.
Nor should you.
Sean, sorry if you all already answered this. Best value at DK per position. So no, we have not answered this question particularly in this way. So now we already talked about our overall favorite plays at each position on DraftKings, but who do we consider the best value at each position, Eric?
Bruce Brown by a lot at point guard.
All right, let's
Grady Dick at shooting guard. Bruce Brown at small forward as well. Power forward, Isaiah Stewart, but I hate it. And then center is Jonte Porter at the moment, but it would turn into Trace Jackson Davis if he started.
To get a little bit contrarian, because I am well overweight to the field too, I'm going to say Scottie Pippen at point guard, Grady Dick at shooting guard, Bruce Brown at small forward, Fontecchio at power forward, and then Gafford for me at center, which then turns into Trace Jackson Davis as we have hit on here. Phil Senzig, who's the ludicrous back down windows up play of the night?
Back down windows up. That's the way I'm
going to need help with this one, Eric. What is the back down windows up play of the night? What could we potentially spin
That's
this
the
into?
way that Luda would prefer to have sensual consenting intercourse with a partner.
Gotcha. So which player is going to fuck us in the ass tonight?
There
Who's
we
the
go.
Player that's just going to ruin our lineups. Just be like, oh boy, this is a mess.
Probably Draymond Green.
Oh, good point. If he plays.
Yeah, I would, as if you could fucking hate somebody more than I hate Draymond Green at times. I do think he's a very intellectual basketball mind. I really do like parts of his podcast. I do enjoy his analysis when he's been on TNT with Shaq and company, but like, God, is he a hateable human being? I would hate him even more if you had the opportunity to, I don't know, just really screw up my lineups with this Trace Jackson Davis madness.
I have over 20% of Scottie Pippen as a contrarian play. So if the Grizzlies come out and do something weird and he doesn't play very many minutes, that's probably something that could end up screwing me. So that's going to be my answer there. Malcolm Revamp, NBA tiers picks Luka or Jokic as a spend up in both classic contests as well as in tiers. The answer is Luka.
Luka.
I know you had said Jokic before. You like him as by the way, I am overweight to Jokic,
Me too.
But I have so much more exposure to Luka overall.
Me too. But it was more of just they asked me sub 5% play. And it's like, well, if Luke is 33 and Jokic is 4 and you're playing one lineup, seems like a pretty nice point of leverage, but I'm playing a lot of lineups and I have like 48% Luka and I have 20% Joker, or at least I did in my last run. So just playing the 150 and the 4 today, and we'll see where the cookie crumbles. But something tells me center might get trimmed up a little bit here now, because one thing I am worried about is I really like Gafford, but I would also really like Trace Jackson Davis, and I kind of want to play a lot of both of them. So I know what you were saying before. Obviously, that's an easy swap. I might have to figure something else out here in the next 15 minutes, because I think there's a world where I just want to jam both of them.
Yeah, let me try to figure out, because that is a good point. Like, am I going to have any lineups with both of them in that scenario? If I'm
They're
holding
the
one
two
guy as a
best point per dollar centers outside of Jonte Porter, but they're the best point per dollar centers on the slate if Draymond Green is out.
Gafford's still up there. The thing
That's what
about
I'm saying.
Gafford,
Those are
though,
the two.
also, which is a little bit annoying to the situation, is I think Gafford's minutes look much better if Trace Jackson Davis is starting at center as opposed
Correct.
to Draymond Green.
That's what I'm saying.
There is a chance Gafford get played off the court by small ball lineups. That's not an issue if Trace Jackson Davis is out there. So, I mean, I don't want to have Draymond Green and Trace Jackson Davis lineups if we ended up getting that kind of scenario.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Draymond Green and Daniel Gafford lineups in that kind of scenario.
Just thinking about this matchup more and more and more. I mean, Maxi Kleber and PJ Washington, small ball types. I mean, this is like Dario Saric. It has it written all over it. The more I keep going back to it, the more I'm really talking myself into doing something very stupid in a 90,000 person contest with Dario Saric. Like full on jam session.
See what else we have here. Cheers, bro. DK cash game locks. Who are the locks for DK cash games tonight?
See, I think this is probably a fun one where you probably play Gafford in cash now and you could turn him into Jackson Davis in that event. I think you probably just play Jonte Porter in the early game. Or sorry, you play Duren for sure in the early game.
Luka, Grady Dick, Bruce Brown, quickly.
Yep.
You got to get these guys in cash games.
Yes, you do.
Got
of Toronto.
Nick the Picker, my friend Nick. By the way, Nick, you're invited to the playback show. We talked about it on the phone. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? So after the not saying tonight, I don't know what it is you got going on, but Nick, you should join us on the post lock show sometime. But Nick has a super chat that he's asking us here about betting today. He wants to know, what do we think of Bruce Brown rebounds? So Nick, every day, Nick and I talk on the phone about prop bets that we like. And earlier, he was asking about Bruce Brown for rebounds. It looks much better now. The conversation we had earlier, to let the audience in on my phone conversation.
Did he text you and you didn't respond? And so then he came in and super chatted you at work?
No. We talked on the phone before the show started, but I just didn't have all the information at the time because we were trying to figure out if Bruce Brown was going to start if Quickly and Gary Trent were both in. And I said I thought they were going to stick with Grady Dick, but weren't really exactly sure. Now that we know that there is Gary Trent out for the Raptors, Nick, I think you can go bet the over on Bruce Brown's rebounds.
I love that.
Jason Swing, Cunningham or Quickly on DraftKings.
Quickly.
That is Quickly for me.
Yep, same.
And I know that Cade has been playing extremely well as of late, and Quickly is not the real life player that Cade is, but there's so many guys out for the Raptors right now. And you look at what the usage looks like in that starting lineup. I mean, it just has to be a big usage night for Emmanuel Quickly, because the other players in the starting lineup, it's Grady Dick, who's playing well-rounded game right now, but he's not a super high usage guy. Bruce Brown, not a super high usage guy. Agbaji, low usage guy. Olynyk, also not all that high of a usage guy. Quickly's going to have a massive lineup usage in this starting lineup. So give me Quickly over Cade tonight. Jake Lindland must plays in the early games for a DK single lineup.
A lot of them. Must plays is if I'm playing one lineup, I can't get away from Bruce Brown Jr. and Grady Dick. Those are the two. I could probably get away from everything else on Toronto, Detroit if you made me.
Those are true. Those are the two guys that I would absolutely want to play in a single entry lineup is Bruce Brown, Grady Dick. Like you said, the other guys, there are other players I like having, players I have a lot of exposure to, but I agree. Those are the two musts per Jake Lindland's question. Super chat here from Riley Cooper 14. He wants to know Scottie Pippen Jr. or Jemison tonight.
Scottie Pippen Jr. Jemison had like career game yesterday. Don't expect that going forward. I mean, the Washington Wizards give up the most points in the paint to bigs. They have no big on the roster. That's probably why. And just different situation, different set of circumstances. Don't look at what happened last game and have that being in any way indicative of what's going to happen next game, besides potentially rotations.
Sived in, thoughts on Jake LaRavia on DraftKings. So my guy that I'm liking to get to from the Grizzlies, as we've talked about, is Scottie Pippen Jr. Part of the reason is because of all the players on the injury report for Memphis. LaRavia is $5,400. That's a pass for me at that salary.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeff Williams, Brown or Dick as a point per dollar play, and he says that he's only playing one of them. Interesting. So if you could only play one of Bruce Brown Jr., Grady Dick, I'm going to go to Bruce Brown. The reason being is because of the positions he's eligible at.
Love it.
Nick the picker. Nick says he's down for sure. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Nick. We'll find a day to get you on, and you could come join. You want to hang out with us all night? That's cool. If you just want to come on for a couple minutes, that's cool as well.
If you want to leave $1.99 super chats to put something you could have just put into the chat, we would have answered and responded to. You can do that too. We appreciate it.
I might not have. I can't guarantee that. Although it's funny, Nick, you're paying me to ask questions. You call me every day, and I pick up the call. You clearly
for free.
You didn't need to. I mean, I don't know what his cell phone plan is. Maybe he's paying some egregious amount per call, and this is cheaper for him to leave a super chat. But appreciate it, Nick. Thank you. You didn't have to leave me money though.
Appreciate you.
Let's get into the Discord here. And by the way, before we answer these questions, BetMGM sponsoring the show today. If you guys haven't checked out BetMGM, we've talked about how this deal is going to be going away soon. Friday, we've been told this is going to be the last day of the BetMGM offer. If you haven't taken advantage of it, time is ticking. Sign up at BetMGM using the link we have below. You place a $5 bet, and they'll give you $150 in bonus bets. Only a couple days left to sign up. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Kenny Wayne, 256. Eric, who is the exotic play of the day, and he says that he's going to unsubscribe to our site if you don't answer him. It's Grady Dick.
Grady Dick.
Easy one.
Same time.
Easy one. Sniffs, 1234 says the Sims are pushing Sasser. Would you cap him? I got to 27% of Sasser. I don't have an issue with him as a tournament option.
22% for me.
There we go. Good contrarian. Well, not contrarian, but good play to be overweight too. Good value play at modest ownership tonight. Parker Boy, is it okay to play Jokic and Luka in the same lineup? Absolutely. That's an exotic setup I could get behind.
Jesus Christ.
There's enough value for it. It's viable. Strixteen71, who is the Mr. Big Energy play of the night? Grady Dick. Come on. You guys see the outfit he was wearing at the NBA draft last year? Grady Dick is the big energy play of the night.
I'm getting to more Kuminga too today.
Mr. Cool Cam, top 3 favorite plays for a FanDuel tournament. Yeah, so talking about the FanDuel side of things now. All right, so if I'm going to avoid the guys who are just like uber chalk, Scottie Pippen Jr., a tournament play I like. Grady Dick is 47% owned on FanDuel. I do think that's quite low for Grady Dick. I think he should be higher than that. Bruce Brown, I can't give you Bruce Brown 76%. He shows up in a lot of my FanDuel lineups. I'm not going to give you him as a tournament option. So Scottie Pippen Jr., Grady Dick, and how about Zion? Zion's modestly owned at 20% at $8,600 on FanDuel. He showed up in 35% of the FanDuel lineups I built. So Zion Williamson is somebody who I'm liking.
Yeah, I'm finishing all my, I don't know what's taking me so long today. I'm like a child, or I'm a child all the time, but Steph Curry, Draymond Green, taking them off the floor, running all the rates. Dario Saric, 1.2 DraftKings points per minute player in 621 minutes this season. I am going to be in such shambles today. I like Trace Jackson Davis, Dario Saric, Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga. I'm just playing a lot more of them than the field is.
The same question just came in 3 times. Valentino, Lucky, and GQ1NC all asked about boosts. So one was, am I boosting anybody today? Daniel Gafford, I'm boosting. And then the question for GQ1NYC said, when I boost, what percentage I boost? There's not like a one-size-fits-all answer, and it's not super scientific either. It's kind of an eyeball test for me where I'm trying to figure out like, hey, what gives me the flexibility I want to be able to make swaps to my lineups based on the injury news, which it's really hard to put like an exact number to it. I did boost Gafford by a 20% positive ROI boost. That was enough for me to get him in north of half of my lineups today. And by the way, Nick left us another super chat, said it makes him feel special. So there we go. It makes him feel special. Leave us super chats. We appreciate it, Nick. Was there a specific number you gave an ROI boost to on Daniel Gafford?
I gave him 15. I gave Trace Jackson Davis 40 to just absolutely nuke him. I did go back and change his projections on the front end though. So I'm running my lineups one more time here before lock. So I just went and changed it as if Draymond's out. I'm going to get to a lot more Trace Jackson Davis this time around.
Melissa H, no question, just super excited. The Sims gave me 68% Grady Dick, so she's going to boost.
Oh, it's one away from greatness.
Melissa,
one away from greatness.
That's thinking with your head. Thinking with your head. Pun intended.
I
Morning
see what you
Napalm
did.
playing Trace Jackson Davis at $6,200 on FanDuel. You don't have to go out of your way to force him into FanDuel lines. It is so much different when he's $6,200 as compared to the $4,900 price point on DK.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Merrill Peak left us a super chat. It is a 3-player comparison. Trey Murphy, Pajemski, or Fontecchio on FanDuel. Let's see. So Trey Murphy, Pajemski, or Fontecchio.
How much Cheatin' Ivy did you play too? I know that we're getting into different things. I have more Fontecchio than any of those guys for sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if the price makes any kind of difference here. Yeah, relative to the price, Pajemski's $6,400 on FanDuel. If you have the flexibility to get up to him as opposed to Fontecchio, yeah, I would pay the $6,400 for Pajemski, especially when you consider that he already projects the best of all those three for us, and he might be getting a boost if Draymond is out. So,
correct.
Pajemski for FanDuel purposes there. Sorry, what was your question?
I didn't have one.
All right, so then let's get back into the Discord question. Just 2 left to answer here, then we're all caught up. JEW, maximum Raptors for single entry, 4. I wouldn't play like 6 players from the Raptors in a single entry tournament. 4.
Mm-hmm.
K Sizzle, hey Eric, any new pick 6 plays that you're liking?
There are so many good ones today. There was a lot of late news. I'd have to go back in and look here.
We could do it on the, how about this? K Sizzle, can we look at it on the post-lock show? Is that okay, Eric?
Yeah, if you jump into playback, we'll have a lot more time to do with it. We've got 3 minutes here to lock, and I just don't want to give you bad information, but there are going to be a lot of things that have changed.
Yeah, and by the way, this was a new K Sizzle asked the question 2 minutes ago, so it's not like this is a question that was asked 20 minutes ago. So
got it.
Yeah, K Sizzle, tune into the post-lock show. 2 minutes from now, Eric and I are going to be on playback. We're doing it together. We're going to be hanging out for another hour. Eric's been excited about it all day. I've been excited about it all day. And yeah, we'll answer any of your pick 6 questions. We'll look at a bunch of bets tonight too. We'll try to find some bets that we like. Eden Queskin says, with Duren being mega chalk, might be wise to take a man whose leverages off of him. I mean,
is that a riddle? Did you just give us a riddle?
I'll reread it. With Duren being mega chalk, might be wise to take a man whose leverage is off to him.
Yeah, that's literally a clue from like National Treasure 3. That will be a clue. I don't know.
What do you say, Batman?
I don't know. I love
who do we play at center tonight? And then if you solve the riddle, you get to save your girlfriend. That's how this whole deal works. So with Duren being mega chalk, so there's no leverage play off of Jalen Duren tonight. There's not somebody else on the Pistons who'll be like, hey, you pivot to this guy. This is the leverage. Just play Gafford at center. And then if we do get the scenario where Draymond Green is ruled out, change him over to Trace Jackson Davis. That's the way that you could be the most different, the most upside of your center spot.
There was going to be a world where I played some James Wiseman. That world does not exist anymore.
From, who was it? CT asked any Neesmith love. I have him in 1 out of 150 lineups, so no.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Let's see if there was any final questions that came into Discord, which none in there. So we've got like 15, 20 seconds left until we get to lock. Guys, do us a favor if you haven't already. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are going to be playing PGA DFS tomorrow, I very, very highly consider you check out our PGA lineup generator. Less than $5 if you sign up right now. It is going to build lineups for you, which is perfect for people who don't know anything about PGA DFS. I've been using our data and tools this year. It's helped me be profitable at PGA. And I know golf. I play golf, not as avidly as Eric, but I'm aware of it. But I don't really know PGA DFS all that well. But I've been profitable this year just by using the data and tools we have at the site. And you guys get access for less than $5. Potentially win $1 million on DraftKings tomorrow with the Players Championship contest. So sign up using that link below. Promo code PLAYERS, PLAYERS, all capital letters. Other than that, guys, Eric and I are going to be heading over to playback. So go join us over there, guys. Be in there in a few seconds. Well, actually, we're kind of already there, but I have to close it.
We are there. 100% there.